Here are two teams that we feel have massively improved over the 2024 offseason. Welcome back to Forward Projects HQ, part of the Hammer Betting Network. Before we get started today, just quickly comment below who you think is the most improved team in your eyes based on their 2024 offseason. I'm your host, Jason Cooper, alongside Fabian Summer, and you can see it in his name already. I won't bury the lead here. Fabian, you got the Jets as one of your massively improved teams in 2024. I mean, obviously, you can look at their quarterback and say, hey, they're going from Zach Wilson to Aaron Rodgers. That's already a big improvement there, but that's not the only place where they improve. So without burying the lead here, why don't you tell us why you like the Jets?
Yeah, so first of all, let me start saying that, I mean, looking at their win total, win-loss record from last year, win total now, some conference Super Bowl odds, it's not a major surprise stating the Jets here, I would argue. But what I find interesting about the Jets is that this is this is the most talented Jets roster I can remember since I started watching football. They're more talented than going into last offseason, but the media talk is like all negative. Like we had the Hackett thing today, then Aaron Rodgers campaigning for Kennedy and stuff like that. So it's pretty much all bad talk. Like a 180 from last season's offseason hype with Hard Knocks and stuff like that. But I would argue that this Jets team, even considering that Aaron Rodgers is coming off an Achilles injury, is the most talented team that I ever saw from the JETS. And I would argue that top to bottom, they are pretty much up there in the entire league. Defense last season was healthy, but they didn't generate a lot of turnovers. They were like a top 3, top 4-ish unit overall on the season. Let's say they have like average health, average turnover luck, pretty much a wash. I'm not going to predict they will finish like a top 3 unit again, but I would argue that there isn't going to be so much regression to be expected from them. Arguably a top 10 unit defending the pass, at least again this year. But last season, the Jets had the 7th worst EPA or expected points differential on turnovers. That was due to having the 3rd most expected points lost due to turnover on offense. Like this was arguably the worst offense in the entire league. Like after Aaron Rodgers went down, this was barely hard to watch. Like I'm a Jets fan and I could not watch their games live on Sunday. Even when I bet on them, I watch Red Zone and some other games because I could not stomach that from an entertainment perspective. They had bad pass blocking, bad run blocking, and they had multiple O-line issues. Like Duane Brown played like 110 snaps and was completely washed when he played. Max Mitchell and Carter Warren, some non-Jets fans might not remember their names. They played a combined 875-ish snaps or whatever. They are now OT4 and OT5 going into the offseason program. Elijah Vera-Tucker was always pretty good when he played at right guard or right tackle, but he missed most of the season. Starting center Connor McGovern left after week 8. That put Joe Tipman, rookie center, into a starting spot, who made it pretty good. And when you look at the current state of the offensive line of the Jets, like left tackle Tyron Smith or rookie Olu Fashanu, who they took with the 11th overall pick, clear upgrade. John Simpson at left guard, small upgrade over Laken Tomlinson, I would argue, at least a wash. Center Joe Tipman, going into his 2nd year as a pro, would expect some sort of improvement there, but he was not bad last year at all. He was pretty solid end of last season. Right guard Elijah Vera-Tucker only played 682 snaps last 2 years, but will start the season healthy. So at least on paper, this is an upgrade there. And right tackle, they traded for Morgan Moses, who was also an upgrade. So the guys who played last season, who were forced to start last season, are now OT4 and OT5. That's a massive, massive difference, in my opinion.
We've seen some, like you mentioned, we've seen some massive upgrades on the offensive line for them. Their defense is going to be as good or maybe a little bit worse than last year, but that's still a top 10 unit in the NFL. The thing that I have circled though is their receiving core, right? I mean, you have Garrett Wilson there, who is just an absolute alpha, and they bring in a couple good guys on top of that. Of course, like you shed Dalvin Cook, who was terrible for you, and you have Breece Hall, who's one more season healthy. So why don't you tell us a little bit about their skill position groups, maybe for the fantasy heads out there?
I mean, the Dalvin Cook experiment. I mean, like everyone and the mother-in-law was able to look at stuff like, I don't know, rushing yards over expected, or just watch the 2022 season and knew that bringing in Dalvin Cook would not lead us to the promised land.
Mhm.
But whatever. Yeah, receiving group. I mean, Garrett Wilson is a start in my opinion. He had 163 targets last season, which was massive. But the problem is who got the second and third most targets in this receiving group. Like second most, Alan fucking Lazar, who might not even make the team this year. I don't think that's set in stone. And the third most targets, Xavier Gibson, undrafted free agent rookie from last year, who made the team because he was the punt and kickoff returner. He was not expected to get the third most targets in that offense among wide receivers. So this year, Garrett Wilson, wide receiver 1, no doubt about that. Mike Williams, yes, coming off an ACL injury. He might be ready for week 1, but I would not expect like his workload to ramp up before October, but that's completely fine. However, I like that addition because even if he's only like 80% of his pre-injury self this year, he's like the type of guy who can make contested catches, and he has the quarterback who is willing to throw exactly these kind of sideline balls like all over again when he sees the opportunity. So I like that fit there. Third wide receiver might be rookie Malachi Corley, yak monster. I don't know what to think about him going forward, but I think if you look at this offense as a whole, like let's exclude the quarterback for one bit. Like O-line is massively improved. Wide receiving group is deeper, like more quality at wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3, even if one guy is coming off an ACL injury. Breece Hall, you mentioned it, is coming off. I think he's now removed like 21 months from his ACL injury when the season kicks off. So full healthy offseason for Breece Hall. And I mean, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. Let's say I don't expect him to be close to that MVP level he played on in 20/21. Not at all. But even an Aaron Rodgers, like 12 months removed from Achilles injury, it can only be so much better than what the Jets had last year. So let's say from a pure subjective performance point of view, he's like the 20th best starting quarterback in the league. That's like 11, 12 spots better than what the Jets had last year. So, and Aaron Rodgers is also a guy who hates committing turnovers. So he will rather punt than making a critical mistake. So that will help if you have a well-rounded team overall. So, and then there's also, the upside that he might be better than the 20th best starting quarterback. So all in all, defense might be a wash and offense should be massively improved, even if Aaron Rodgers is maybe an average starting quarterback at best.
Yeah, and like let's just take a look at the wins from last year, right? The Jets were able to rack up 7 wins with that atrocious QB room, 32nd in the league probably. But if they could be worse, if there was more than 32 teams, I'm sure they'd be down there because they did not have the 32nd best quarterback at playing quarterback for them, right? So even just the improvement of getting Aaron Rodgers in, like you said, and if he's the 20th best quarterback, he doesn't have to be the Aaron Rodgers of old. He just has to be good enough. The floor is already there. I mean, books have already priced the New York Jets to the win total at 9.5. Juice to the over, so expecting 10 wins, a 3-win jump for the New York Jets, which is pretty tough going from 7 to 10. And again, like you said, if Aaron Rodgers can just be quarterback 20 to quarterback 15, this is very, very realistic for the New York Jets. Let's move on to the other team that you mentioned. The other one, this was pretty interesting, is the Arizona Cardinals, as one of your teams that you feel have massively improved over the 2024 offseason. I was shocked by them last year. I thought they were going to bottom out a lot worse than they did. Under Gannon, they showed a lot of fight in them, which is something that was pretty shocking. Their defense didn't look as, I mean, they weren't great, don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of people expected them to be a lot worse. Only 4 wins last year, so they're like, hey, don't get me wrong, they were pretty bad. But yeah, only 4 wins last year. So why don't you tell us why you feel like the Cardinals are one of your more improved teams this offseason?
Yeah, I don't think that the Cardinals will be a playoff team. I think that the roster is still too far away. But when we talk about most improved teams or some of the most improved teams, like if the Cardinals go 7-10, which their win total kind of is indicating right now, or maybe they can go like 8-9, this will already be a massive improvement over last season, like a 3 to 4 win improvement. And I think that's clearly in the mix for them, because they did not do the most impactful offseason additions, but just a few like regression points I want to talk about. Like Kyler Murray, almost 2 years, or let's say 21 months removed from ACL injury going into week 1. Second year and full offseason under OC Drew Petzing has to mean something. The O-line should be a little bit more stabilized. Paris Johnson is entering year 2. Jonah Williams at left tackle. I don't think Jonah Williams is pretty good, but overall, I would expect this O-line to at least be a little more stabilized going into the season. At wide receiver, I mean, Marvin Harrison is probably the closest that we had in recent memory about a projection for a wide receiver going into his first NFL season. Like, I mean, I think that the bust potential for this guy is very low, and there's a decent chance that he's going to be a stud from week 1 onward. So they now have Trey McBride, who had an incredible second half of last season after Zach Ertz went down, who had a high target share late in the season. So now you have Marvin Harrison and McBride, 2 very good pass catching options for Kyler Murray. I would have liked if they went like after one more quality wide receiver option. I mean, like Zay Jones is kind of solid as a wide receiver 3 kind of guy. Greg Dortch I like, but I mean, I would really have liked them to go maybe after a veteran wide receiver 2 option. So now it's pretty much McBride, Marvin Harrison, and a bunch of jacks, just the guys. So overall, I think this offense, even if you consider the pre-Kyler Murray era last year, and then him coming off ACL, I think we will see a much better Cardinals offense overall. I like what they did in the run game, some really nice one execution without really having the personnel to do so. Now Kyler Murray adds another component as a rushing threat in the one blocking game. So overall, I would expect the offense to be better. And I mean, we can talk about the defense.
Let's keep it to the offense maybe, but no, go ahead with the defense.
Yeah. I mean, that defense was really, really bad. I think they lost the 5th most AGLs, just games lost, due to injury. So really injured unit last year. Their run defense was absolutely awful. I think they had the worst run defense grade in football by country mile. Their pass rushing unit was also not good. They had guys like Jonathan Ledbetter, Dante Stills, Kevin Strong out there. And now they have guys like Justin Jones, Bilal Nichols, Darius Robinson they added in the first round. Those are not special players, and they absolutely overpaid for them during free agency. But now they have somebody's there. They just needed somebody's in their front 7, a little bit more health. And they also were not good at generating turnovers last season. They had the 4th fewest expected points from turnovers last season. So some regression in the turnover department, a little bit more brute force up front. I think will help this defense. This is not an average unit on paper, like by any stretch of the imagination, but just by pure chance and having more bodies in their front seven, I think they will slightly, or at least slightly, improve in terms of efficiency and maybe generating a few more big plays. This is still a bad defense, but like I said, like just by pure chance, they might be better. So overall, I would say offense will be better. Defense might be slightly better, but the problem is they will play a super tough schedule. NFC North, I mean, we can make the case that the Lions and Packers got better in the offseason, and the Bears now have or might have a real quarterback, and the Vikings probably have the best infrastructure that a non-first overall rookie could think of. I mean, Bears already have a great infrastructure for a rookie quarterback, but the Vikings, they have a good offensive line. Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson coming back from injury at some point, decent play caller with KOC, decent DC. So Vikings were a great spot for a rookie quarterback. So we can make a case that the NFC North will be very, very good next year. The other division from the other conference, from the AFC East, I mean, Bills, Dolphins, Jets could be 3 potential playoff teams. So tough schedule. That's why their win total is not 8.5, but it's rather in the 6.7 kind of range. But even going 7-10 or maybe 8-9, like we said earlier, would be a massive improvement for them.
Well, I mean, again, like we mentioned before, if you look back at their wins last year, not their win total, their wins, they only had 4 wins last year, right? And their win total right now is being priced at around the 6.5 range, and it's heavily juiced to the over. And I think there's starting to be some 7.5s out there. So again, we're talking about a team that was among one of the worst in the league, that's come and turn around and could potentially see, well, at least the market is expecting to get at least 3 more wins based off of last year, even still, when they have this tough road ahead of them. Listen, bad defense, pretty good offense. That seems like the team that I want to watch play football. So I'm excited to watch them throughout the offseason, or throughout the season here when football starts back up, because again, Kyler Murray, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So anyways, those are 2 teams that we feel have massively improved over the 2024 NFL offseason. If you enjoyed the content, smash that like button below. And again, drop a comment on who you feel is one of the more improved teams coming into 2024. Also a reminder, hit that subscribe button if you like this type of content. We got tons of videos coming up for you throughout the offseason, including team previews, including division previews. We might put in some fantasy stuff there too. Who knows? But yeah, make sure you're subscribed so you can see all the updates from us here over on Forward Progress. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.